Episode 4 of the Story Traders podcast. This is stories about the workplace, part 1. So, the story that I have actually doesn't happen at the workplace.
Oh my gosh, you're going to start on me like this?
Yeah, but it's involving coworkers, or at least prior coworkers.
Okay.
So, good friends. After I moved on from this job, we stayed in contact. We still go like skiing regularly together. And so we hadn't seen each other in quite a while. We decided to go to Topgolf.
Good place?
Yeah. And this was shortly after Bailey and I had found out that we were pregnant. We had already told the family and everything, but I hadn't told any of the guys. So I was like, well, this is a perfect time to tell the guys when we get together at Topgolf. And we get there, we start golfing and everything.
Did you have an idea going in how you were going to tell them?
No, I had no idea.
Like, just like, I got to tell them somehow.
Yeah. Okay. I was going to tell them at some point. I was probably just going to like let it out and just like play it cool and just see if any of them noticed. Yeah. And so we're playing, and then one of the guys. So the background to all the names. Okay, we came up with these names a while ago, and we just go with Boss, Moss, and Sauce. Okay.
So not confusing.
Weirdest names ever, but there's a lot of backstory to them, but that's what we call each other. So Moss, who is a couple, he's like a year older than me,
okay.
had said, he was like, well, bosses, and I was like, oh my gosh, I think I know exactly what he's gonna say.
They're pregnant?
And he goes, me and the wife are pregnant. And I was just like, no way. Because Bailey and I are also pregnant.
I think it's so funny that you saw it coming just as he like sighed.
Yeah. I think it's probably because I was already like, I was in the mindset that I was going to tell them this.
Yeah.
And so since they also didn't have a kid yet, then I was just like, when he goes, well, I'm like, oh, here it comes. Here it comes. So it was just so funny because then everyone's like, no way, that's crazy. That's crazy. And then Boss goes, and we're like, no. He already had one kid.
Yeah.
But we were like, you're not about to tell us that you're also pregnant. He's like, so I don't have any knowledge of a pregnancy, but I'm not going to lie, I'm starting to think that the things that my wife has been bringing home from the grocery store may be involved in a pregnancy. I got to check. And we were like, oh my gosh. So we're talking about
not
this.
Dawned on him
No, it hadn't dawned on him.
You guys are we're pregnant. He's like, oh, I might be too. We might be too.
I don't know why. It was so funny. So we're talking the rest of the evening about how hilarious this was. And he still obviously didn't know or anything. And then the next day, I kind of forgot about it until the evening. And I get a WhatsApp call, like a FaceTime call, basically through WhatsApp, which is where we're all texting each other.
WhatsApp.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, here it comes. And everyone happens to be available at the same time. And we just pick it up. And he goes, well, guys, me and the wife are expecting. And it was like, I'm not even joking. His kid was due first out of the three of us.
Wow.
And so he ended up having his kid late May. And then Moss had his kid in early June. And then we had Oliver in late June. And so it was like spaced like 2.5 weeks apart from each other. Yeah. It was so funny. So we talk about this all the time now.
Yeah. And poor, who's the last one?
Yeah, Sauce. He's
Sauce.
younger.
Not married.
He's
can't participate. It's very sad for him.
Yeah, but he thought it was funny. So, anyways.
I remember something about that spring, like with the diaper parties. Mm-hmm. Like each one of you guys had a diaper party. Uh-huh. And like for the first one, you guys all brought him diapers. Uh-huh. And then for the next one, he brought some of his diapers for the next one.
Yeah, he just brought a box
and like
of diapers.
you guys
that he
were just
already had.
exchanging diapers in between all the diaper parties.
Yeah, and then the last diaper party, the other two already had boxes of diapers. They just brought those instead of going and picking up more diapers. Yeah, it was hilarious.
Yeah, what a crazy coincidence. That's so funny. So my story involves working at a nursery. I've worked at a couple over the years.
Okay.
And I was on a pulling crew, so it's like a wholesale nursery. So we were out in the greenhouse. We'd get this form from so-and-so greenhouse wanted a flat of this, flat of that, whatever. And we'd put their whole order together on like a flatbed trailer. And we were just pulling these trailers through the nursery with a tractor.
Mm-hmm.
And we just gotten like this new shipping facility. So all these tractors and trailers were lining up, and you would, like, we didn't have enough tractors. So if you still had lots of orders to pull, which, I mean, the spring days were long. So it's like, you gotta just, I mean, you're out there so long. You got so many orders to pull. So, since you're kind of waiting for the shipping people to get through all the orders, you just drop your wagon and you go. If it's like at the end of the day, you're done, you just leave the tractor there. But I'll just say, since it was the new shipping facility, this was like within the first week, I think, of moving over there, because we had shipped out of a different building.
Yeah.
Also with this new shipping facility, there were some ponds around, with ponds, lots of water in them.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you're familiar with them,
Oh,
but a lot of times kind of deep banks on them.
Yeah.
And there's also a little bit of grade to the gravel driveways,
Mm-hmm.
Very close to the shipping facility. So this one time, as I said, like this was very recently after we had opened this new facility, somebody had dropped their trailer, drove their tractor away, and let's just say within probably like 20 seconds, somebody looked over there, hauled the trailer and all the plants in the pond.
Oh my gosh.
It just backed right. Actually, I think somebody...
They slipped in there?
The tractor didn't slip.
Okay.
It was like they unhooked the trailer.
Oh my gosh, and it just slid in?
They unhooked the trailer, and like there's a decent amount of weight on that trailer.
Yeah.
So whoever was unhooking it like pulled the pin, and I think it like
no.
immediately
They
started
chalk it?
rolling backwards, and they were like trying to pull. They're like, oh no, and it just slipped right in there. And
Oh my
like,
gosh.
it was like not a whole lot of like super interesting things happened during the nursery day, but like the news about that spread across the nursery very quickly, and it's like everybody was like, screw work for a minute, I gotta go see this. They like all go to the shipping facility, and there's just a trailer in the pond. And plants with potting soil are very buoyant. Actually, they were like just all floating in the pond.
Yeah, they're probably that actually is kind of, that's hilarious. But it seems like they would fill up pretty quick and then get real heavy.
Oh, they were very waterlogged, but I was surprised that they like still floated.
Yeah.
The plastic probably had something to do with it. But yeah, it was like one person's job for like an hour to just take a rake, and they were just like trying to skim these plants off the top of a pond and put them back into their flats. So needless to say, we had to pull that order again, but it was kind of funny.
But you didn't have to water them.
No, we didn't have to water it. That's for sure.
Oh my gosh, that's funny.
Yeah.
All right, so I've got another couple stories about my my old boss.
Okay.
So, he and I got along really well together, but there are several pretty hilarious just interactions with him that stick with me over the years. So one of them was back. It was probably 7 or 8 years ago, and at the time didn't have much facial hair. Like it's a little patchy right now.
I was gonna
This
say,
is
I mean,
me.
I feel as though, have you ever?
Yeah, well, it's still a little patchy, but it's a heck of a lot better than it used to be. So this is one November. It was probably
Our Story Traders graphic doesn't really show our facial hair representation very well.
Yeah, exactly. So this was late November. It was probably like November 20th or so.
Okay.
And
Oh, I think I remember this.
and I walked into his office to get help with something. And right after I walked in, he just kind of looked at me and goes, Did you lose your razor?" And I was like, "No, I'm doing No Shave November." And he just pauses, just kind of stares at me. And then very quietly, he just rotates his chair around 180 degrees towards the wall where his calendar is. And he looks at the calendar. And then he turns back 180 degrees, looks back at me, and just says, "So that's from 3 weeks of growth?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he's just like, "Okay." And we just continued on with the conversation.
Such a dry sense of humor, but it's hilarious.
It was hilarious. Yeah.
I love the 180-degree spin.
Yeah.
And you're just like, did you know like immediately what he was doing? You're
No,
like,
I had no idea. I had no idea what he was doing. But then when he started looking at the calendar, I was like, "Oh,
you're like, oh, he's trying to figure out how long I've been growing this
Yeah.
freaking thing.
It was bad. It was really bad. The
Yeah.
No Shave Novembers at the time were pretty rough. At this point, I mean, I've had like a full beard for over a year. So,
Well, I mean,
you
like
know, it's
70% of a beard, yeah.
yeah, it's been doing much better now.
Yeah.
But
No.
anyway,
To
so
your credit, it does look a lot better than back then. Yes.
Thank you. So another story that's similar in many ways in terms of just the interaction was on, trying to remember, it was on the 50th anniversary of the moon landing.
Yeah.
And so like late July. And I had been in this like
I love how you
massive,
just know that.
Yeah.
You probably know exactly when.
Well, I want to say it was
the
maybe
anniversaries.
July 22nd or 23rd.
You
But
just know random dates like that. I have
Yeah,
no
I'm pretty good at dates for some
clue.
reason.
I wouldn't even know what month it was.
Yeah, July of 1969. So I had been on like this massive rocket kick because I'm an engineer. I'm like very fascinated by rockets, and so I would just start listening to all these books about like rockets, like specifically Neil Armstrong, and also like books about Elon Musk and SpaceX and that kind of thing. And so I was very aware that the day, that whatever day it was the 50th anniversary of the moon landing.
Okay.
So in a very similar fashion, I walked into my boss's office to ask him for some help on whatever project that I was working on. And when I walk in, he's like, do you know what day it is? I was like, yeah, it's the 50th anniversary of the moon landing.
If I were you, I just would have said, it's Tuesday. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm aware.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I said, yeah, the 50th anniversary of the moon landing. And
Did you know he was into rockets?
No.
It's just crazy that you just automatically knew, like, oh, he's talking about the moon landing.
Well, he might have said something that was like very, like, do you know what like special day it is or something?
Okay.
I don't remember exactly how he worded it, but I do know that I responded with exactly what he was looking for, and that was that it was the moon landing anniversary.
Yeah.
And after I said that, he just kind of looked at me. He's like, "Do you believe it happened?" And I was just paused and was like, "Yes." And he goes, "Okay." As he slowly nodded, and then we just continued on with our conversation.
Yeah.
He's
A little bit of a pessimist.
I'm very
the,
skeptical.
Skeptical.
I'm very aware that a lot of people are skeptical if the moon landing actually happened. I am one of the people that thinks that it did happen.
Yeah.
But the interaction was classic. And yeah, one of my favorite stories from one of my prior jobs.
This is not a story that involves coworkers at all, but it's related to the moon landing. I wouldn't say accidentally, like it was a complete joke that I was not intending to roll with at all, but I convinced a friend that I was a flat earther.
Oh my gosh.
And they took it hook, line, and sinker.
Oh
I mean,
my gosh.
they were just. Actually, I still haven't told him that.
Oh, he still doesn't know?
Yeah, he still thinks I am. So I should probably text him and tell him I'm not. But yeah, we were driving back from something, and I do not remember how it came up, but I think he may have said, "Oh yeah, and you're probably a flat earther too." And I was like, "I actually am, yeah." And he's like, "No." I was like, and I did not have any sort of evidence to back up a flat earth theory at all. I was just like, yeah, I mean, if you think about it, I was just like staying so broad. Like if you think about it, I mean, the earth, it just doesn't make sense at all with that it would be round. It's obviously flat. And his mind was just blown. He's like, how have I known you this long? And I didn't know you were a flat earther. And there were a couple other people in the car, and they like knew I was joking, but they didn't like want to give it away for me. It was very funny.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. You got any other stories?
Not right now.
Okay. Well, let's go to our most recent comment on YouTube. This is from Isaac.
Oh boy.
But Isaac actually left a full-fledged comment.
Oh, okay.
Okay. This is on our second episode, stories about our bachelor parties. This is related to when you said that we were talking about how there wasn't any alcohol, and that we were just drinking a bunch of like Dr. Shasta.
Yeah.
And Isaac said, "Who needs alcohol when you have Dr. Shasta?" And then there's about 6 exclamation points and question marks. So keep commenting. We'll keep reading them. Leave us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts and
Did he leave us 5 stars?
Oh, I have no idea.
Oh,
Should
my
talk
gosh.
to him. Let's hope, because he was on the 3rd episode.
Yeah, he better have.
But yeah, leave us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts. We might read your review. So
We might.
okay. Episode 4 of Story Traders Podcast.
Thanks for listening.